Just think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts Damian Both and Catherine Bramkamp.
Hey, this is episode 199. Oh, we should just stay here. I'm going to have to start. It's like a new year. You're going to have to get used to like, oh, now it's 201. Anyway.
199.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that is. That means next week is our 200th episode.
That's when we're going to explode.
I haven't sent any invitations out.
That's a shame. We can... It's just going to be like eloping. We'll just elope to 200. In fact...
Yeah, I think it will be like eloping. We'll just smooth it over and just say, well, we did 200. Congratulations. Okay, let's keep going.
We could be jerks and just... Next week should be episode 201. And then when...
Just skip over it like you skip over birthdays, right?
Yeah. And then when people email me and say, hey, I don't know if you got the number wrong or whatever. But no, we just didn't do a show. I just decided not worth it.
We just goofed off. What can we say?
Yeah, we had a guest and everything, but they weren't up to scratch.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be really offensive, wouldn't it?
That would be offensive, but we'll worry about offending somebody next week. This week we have new author Josh. Let me get your last name in my notes. Thank you. Delaney. Hi, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Hang on. I'm never letting you do any of our guest names first up after that. Anyway.
I just had Josh. Hey, it's been a long week.
It has. Josh. Welcome. Prepare to be offended.
Well then, let's have some fun.
Yeah, and it's not going to involve midgets cartwheeling at a funeral. All right. Anyway, so Catherine...
I think that needs to go into your bio for the book. It's like, and he wants to have midgets cartwheeling at his funeral.
Who doesn't?
I'm making a character after you, I swear.
Oh, look, people have killed me in books before.
That's right.
Yes, Nathan Weaver. Thank you. I paid for that too. Anyway, what are we doing here?
We were talking to Josh because he has a new book, and I want to hear about how he got to writing and publishing his book, and then what are his plans for the future? Because I can do that as a mom. I can say, so what do you want to do? They love that question, don't you, Josh? What do you want to do?
Well, she's a mom. I can't really deny the question either.
No. So. I was going to. I thought she was saying because as an older person, I have that.
I was not going to say that.
Oh. Anyway. So let's ask a direct question of Josh. How did you come about writing this book? Let's start there.
There you go.
You and your viewers are going to hate me for this question, or this answer, because I literally sat down one night and just decided... I run a Tumblr blog where I do little role plays, little storytelling with other people, and I sat down one night, I looked at my characters and went, I hate these two I have, I'm going to make new ones. That's how I got my main set of characters, and before I knew it, I was working with some of my friends on there, and next thing I knew, I was on chapter 5 of this book, just going to town with it.
Oh, how fun.
How do you come up with the names? I noticed, so I was on the Amazon link, which will be in the show notes, your character names are pretty crazy, so they're not like Jeff and Bill.
Well, I thought about it, and a different world... Most books that have different worlds, what's the first thing you usually hear is names that are very generic or are known to a certain country style of naming. I thought, if I'm going to go with the lore of this world is before something erratic happened, why not have it where you have Japanese names, I might put in some Islamic names, Hispanic names. They're just names from around the world that I found actually by using Google.
So did you just Google like Islamic? Actually, that would be really bad if you type Islamic names. But
probably.
So because you've got the main character, what Yunali Tatsaki, which I always thought, I saw that and I thought, oh, it's like tzatziki that you put in Greek food. Is that well? Go, oh, that's a nice name. I might grab that. That's a nice name, etc., etc.
Well, like the names Unali, Lavician, Kararan, those are actually the species names because I had to think about it. The Japanese have quite a few names for different yokai or monsters. Same do many other cultures in the world, but none of them really stick to the creatures I was creating. And I had to really think on it of what would be a good name to give these that would actually stand out from what I'm looking at. And that was just the best I could come up with, to be honest.
So did you write them all down first and sort of think, that sort of fits this character that I have in mind, this, or was it just as you went?
Little half and half. For the species names, I had to write them down and think, okay, we can combine these and play with this here. And then with the actual names, it was just sort of as I went, what felt best.
For me, because I'm a bit the same. I'm writing medieval fantasy. We were talking before about it. And I try and stick to that sort of way of doing things. Gnome names, dwarf names, whatever. But just sometimes, and this is where, and we've mentioned this on this show before, Catherine will say sometimes your characters, or they speak to you, or your mind runs away. And I found it funny because I had all of my, typical sort of dwarf type names. And then I was like, yeah, I think I might call that person Molly. I'm like, Molly doesn't fit. We need to change that name. And it just refused to change. So I don't know. I can't help it. What did I have as the other name that just came out? See, I had things like, Hannah was another name. And I thought, well, that's not very medieval, but whatever.
But that's what Hannah wanted to be named, right?
I know. Oh, I'm not going to say that on air.
You just did.
I did.
So, Josh, did you find as you were, because I think it's interesting that as you quote, suddenly had your chapter, you were at chapter 5, did your characters start running away with the story? And you had to follow them? How was the process for that?
Well, I had to give them all a specific, I probably just butchered that. Wow, English. Why do you escape me right now?
That happens a lot. It's okay.
I had to give them certain personality traits and go ahead and develop what their personalities were going to be against each other to sort of let them become what they wanted. But I will admit, 2 of the main characters changed since development. For one, the Unali, I believe her name was Tasaki Chojiosha, was originally going to be a very hyperactive female character, and the more I wrote her, I was like, she's irritating the heck out of me. I gotta change her. I need to give her, I can keep that mischievous nature, but I gotta get rid of the hyperactiveness.
So what?
It's like that. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. You're on a roll, and I pushed the button. That's all right. I've lost my.
So she was getting
now.
too hyperactive,
Yes.
And so you thought, oh no, this is not going to work for the story.
Picture like that little sister that likes to run into your room and steal your stuff when you're not home, and then you find her like with your ball cap or like wearing your class ring from high school or something. Like 3 days later, it was kind of like that.
Huh. Right. I've completely lost my train of thought. It's early in the morning. With this, though, you mentioned that you've been doing some writing on a Tumblr blog. What got you into that?
Boredom. No, I'm sorry, that was not exactly the truth. I've always been interested in storytelling since I was young. Doesn't matter if it was a cartoon, an anime. There's about 100 people that follow you Googling that term right now. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what it was. I've always loved storytelling. And when I found out on this Tumblr that I could create characters and try to tell a story, I was like, let's go for it and see what happens. And you'd be surprised how picky people can be on there to who they are willing to create a story with.
Uh-huh.
So after a while, I had to kind of finesse my style, or else I wouldn't have anyone that want to talk to me.
Do you get the odd troll on there? I know I'm just basing this on, I'm a big Warcraft player, and they have certain servers on there that are role-playing only, so you have to be your character. just couldn't help it. And so I logged in once, and there was some guy going, I am unable to enter the city for I murdered my brother, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay. So then I logged back in as Basil Faulty, and I said, come with me, I own a hotel.
Basil Faulty?
Yeah. And they just didn't get it. I don't know. Do you find that? Do you find people sometimes take things way too seriously?
You have no idea. I've ran into a whole gaggle of people. There are some who just absolutely want the whole thing to go their way. There are some who don't know exactly where they're at. And then there's the kind you're talking about who you try to talk to them later about it and be like, hey, why don't we progress the story this way? And you'll get, well, I doth not think that we shall do that. For instance, if we shall, and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to call you Bill. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Can we calm down?
Stories on the internet, not in real life. Yes.
Yeah.
Which I then think about them socially. Do you meet them or you're at work or you come across them? They don't speak like that. But then you say, what do you get up to in your spare time? Well, I am a mighty warrior on the internet. I don't know.
You will not hear that because that is... unless someone takes a lot, and I mean a lot of pride in their character, you will not hear that exact tone of phrasing. Usually it's just kind of like, I just kind of hang out with people online.
Okay, so they play it down as opposed to continuing with their character in quote real life, unquote.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
however, then you try to talk to them online and they're like, you are beneath me, knave. It's like, Jeff, we just got out of high school. Can you take like 2 seconds? Breathe.
Yeah. Job interview. What do you do in your spare time? Well, I'm actually a banished rock ogre.
Banished rock.
Living in the forest.
That has...
I don't know, depending on the job, they might say, oh, I know who you are.
Wow, yeah. And then that'd
go
be
to
awkward.
apply to Blizzard.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I heard...
I know this.
I was reading an article somewhere... Where was it? I think Yahoo hired someone that used to run quite an extensive guild on World of Warcraft. He put that on his resume. And they went, really? You've got experience running things. How many people in that guild? He's like, oh, no, 500. Like, excellent. You're hired.
Yeah.
Like, wow. That would be,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can see that. I definitely can see that, especially in the Silicon Valley, where that is what they want to look for, which is ironic because if you're a parent of a small child with, who is glued to their video games and you think, oh, there is no future in that. You should be using other skills. And then you realize, no, pretty much those are the skills.
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't we feel foolish now?
I know, but then it still comes up. Like I was talking to someone yesterday, I rang a job through. We were talking about kids or whatever while I was processing it. And I said, my boy, he's just obsessed with Star Wars and just online games, whatever. And he goes, Damien, don't you get out there and play sports with him? And I said, mate, my kid is so pale, he's nearly transparent. And he just went, oh, that's not good. You're in Australia, we're supposed to do sports. What? Nah.
No.
Force that. Anyway.
No, because mine, who did not do sports and did do video games, he didn't do Blizzard, I think he was Warcraft.
Yeah, that's Blizzard. Blizzard owns everything
Blizzard
now.
is the overreaching, the Overlord?
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
The Overlord.
Yeah, he did Warcraft and was not interested in going outside. And his older brother, at one point, a neighbor asked my oldest son if he had siblings, and he says, yeah, I got a brother who's in the same grade. And the neighbor said, really? I've never seen him. Are you sure?
Wow.
That's the child who's working for a whole lot of money for Microsoft. So it worked out.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
It will work out for Julian, I am sure.
It better.
And if he doesn't want to have a ball thrown at his head, then by all means do not throw a ball at his head.
Well, he's got to go far because he's got a very expensive funeral to fund when I'm gone.
That's right. He has to hire the dwarves. He has to hire the rocket ship. I think you want to make sure he has a very lucrative job.
I hope so. Anyway, so Josh, you were typing this up. At what point did you think, cool, this is finished? Or did you think, ooh, I've got something more here. I'll finish it here and I'll carry on to book 2, book 3?
Honestly, it wasn't until a little bit after it was actually done. I was still running it through people and having them all look at it and tell me what they thought of it, what they thought could be improved, what they liked about it. And it wasn't until I finally got it through the process of the, cannot remember their names, almost called them the IRS. This same company, the government. And I finally just sat down and went, I might as well go ahead and start working on book 2 while this sort of tries to pick up a fan base. And I didn't start chapter 1 until like last November, I want to say.
Oh, yeah. So, did you, once it was complete though, as a newbie, what did you do? Did you hit the net and say, well, I got this book, what do I do now?
I hit the net with a sledgehammer and a sack of potatoes, and because the sack of potatoes will spread. And I put it up on Amazon. I was contacting some of my, I have a couple of writer friends. I was contacting them. I was contacting, I believe the website's called Writer's Digest, where you can find a whole list of people who do online reviews and agencies. I was rapid firing through there. It's not, I feel a lot of people who first get into this career or hobby or whichever one you want to do with it feel that, oh, you write a book, you put it out there, way to go, now you're famous. Or now you're going to make all the money. And it's like, no, you actually have to take time and cradle it like a parent. It's basically now your kid. You need to take care of it. You need to make sure it becomes successful, because if it flops, there's no one to blame but yourself.
Pretty much. And that's the end of the show.
The deep insight.
Yes, it is true. And so we're going through that as well, aren't we, Catherine? We got our book. It's got to get out there at some point, doing more edits on it. And yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a little bit easier, well, for me, because I can just leech off of everyone on this show. Catherine does have that history and those contacts. So once it's done, I'll just say, well, there you go. You ring whoever you need to call, and hopefully it gets somewhere. But I think for a complete newbie who doesn't have those contacts or 4 years of a podcast behind them, it would be pretty hard. I mean, you even still had the Tumblr thing behind you, and that's where it sort of spawned from. But I just think of those who just sit down after work one day with a glass of wine and go, I'm going to write a book, and where they go from there. Because there is a lot of info out on the net, and some of it's not that good.
Right.
And
some of it's complicated, and some of it will cost you money. So there's a lot of cautions to that.
And just so I can kind of cover my own tail on that, because what you said is basically what I did without the glass of wine, is while I was writing, I would even research not a single weapon except for, I believe, the main character and the main villain's weapons are fictional. Every single one I've researched comes out of history, comes out of different regions. Cool. And there's some weapons out there I'm like, this is awesome. Why can't I own this? I want this.
Yeah, because customs don't approve of that sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, there's one, I believe it's in Indonesia. It's used for a traditional ceremony, literally a blade 30 foot long. It's paper thin. And you know those ribbon dancers?
Yeah.
It's a martial art that goes along the style of that. And it's very pretty. But at the same time, you know, if you try to touch this person while they're using this, you could get very hurt.
That's interesting. So it's beautiful and deadly, which is always a lovely thing to write about because the contrast is so nice.
Yeah, but not very practical.
Well, no, you don't want it. If it doesn't, fit in your pants pocket, it'd be a little tough to walk around.
I mean, I got one that fits both of those descriptions from, I believe it's Eastern China. on my list of weapons to use.
Uh-huh.
Fits in your back pocket. It literally, can't remember the name of it. It's 2 poles with spears on the end with rings that go on your middle fingers, and the whole point of the martial art is to spin them, and you're causing a distraction with them because the whole time you're watching the movements as they approach, and you won't even realize you're being distracted. Before you know it, they're up close and they just stabbed you.
Oh,
With the
how
tip.
pleasant.
I'm just still thinking of the big 30-foot weapon going, if you're trying to invade somewhere and they're going, keep an eye out on the horizon. It's like, what's that? There's 500 flopping things coming at me.
Look out for the streamers!
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so beautiful. Get down.
Yeah, exactly. I'll let them in. Yeah.
They look great. Let's just watch for a minute. It can't hurt.
They're just ready to cannon. We'll wait.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I think my medieval fantasy book's going to be just a comedy, really. Think of that.
That's been done too, to great success. You just channel Monty Python and go on from there.
I know. I like Monty Python. Anyway. I've been watching a lot of John Cleese, to be honest, on YouTube. And
It's pretty funny.
he's got a book out, which I'm trying to track down, called So Anyway. And, yeah, he was being interviewed by Eric Idle, I think. He's like, have you read my book, Eric? He goes, no, didn't want to spoil it. He says, what do you mean? So I just didn't want to get disappointed. What's your book about?
And John Cleese said, me.
Me?
Of course.
Yeah, he goes, well, what we did with Monty Python. Oh,
Yeah.
really? Who'd want to read that? Yeah. Everyone. Anyway.
Do be careful with those interviews.
Yes. So, when it comes to things like covers for the book, how'd you go about choosing that? Going through that process? Because that's always the fun bit, surely.
I ripped my hair out over that one. I had to sit here and, because, again, I had absolutely no contacts, and out of nowhere, my father actually turned around and said, hey, I have this writer friend of mine. She gets her book covers from this person. Why don't you try talking to her? And that gave me 2 things. They gave me my first friend who was a writer in the business. And 2, it brought me to my cover artist at the time, and I intended to go back to her for the second one. But up until then, I'd spent 2 months just pulling my hair out because I made the mistake of writing the book and not even giving a name or thought to the cover title afterwards. So I was like, I'm in a hole.
Josh's book.
Yeah. My first book by Josh. Yes.
Right by numbers.
Yeah, right by numbers. Hey, there are those out there, I'm sure. We should look into that.
Yes.
The thing I wrote in the closet.
Yeah, well, and then came out. No, that's not going to be right.
No. That might not be where you want to go.
The day my book came out. What a cool idea. Anyway, so but then what I'm curious about is how do you choose? I've not had to do this. I've not experienced this, but how do you choose the scene that ends up on your cover? Or
Yeah.
You really have to think of, like for me, if it's a one shot, you have to think of the tone of the overall book, of what you want to stand out the most, of the feeling that the reader's going to get when they open this up. Like, for instance, Ender's Game. If you ever read the books to that, it's all about a kid who ends up going to space during a certain program, and it's a very conjumbled bit of literature, but at the same time it works because it's jumping in and out of his consciousness while it's going around. But the cover to it makes sense. It interests you because it shows, spaceships in the middle of a battle. It shows everything that you're basically about to experience.
Right.
And for a series, I would say try to pick what's best for the tone in that book that can lead to questions about what may happen in the next book.
Yeah. So you didn't pick a specific scene?
I did. It was a dragon sitting atop a castle tower with a nice luminescent moon in the background. The stars were out. The clouds were in a nice greenish, almost evil color as the landscape was darkened. And looking at that, you can tell, there's definitely something that's about to go wrong.
Oh, okay.
Well, because that's just brought me to a thought of then, you see some books, some fiction books that have just got like a logo on it, like Wheel of Time, for example. Yeah, sure, massively popular. But is that a bit of a cop-out? It's like, well, let's just get one logo, put it on the book, and we'll change the colour of the book every time. It's green, it's red, it's black. I don't know.
That's one of those, I gotta say, really are ingenious in the style. Because that doesn't work very often, but when it does, it works so well. To where it almost makes you feel like you're not just reading a story of fictional characters, it almost makes you feel like from the moment you pick up a book in that series, whether you've read the first one or you're just now trying one, that you're basically looking through someone else's eyes. It's almost like you're picking up someone's diary.
Mind you, some of those Wheel of Time things got a bit long in the tooth. But I see that, though. I've seen a couple of other books through Amazon where they have a nice funky little logo on the front. And I don't know. I don't have any logos in mind yet, so maybe I should have one.
You should get you a logo, and then we'll put the logo on front of Don't Write Like We Talk, and then you will, too, have a logoed book.
Just a midget cartwheeling?
Yeah.
Get on that.
That's good. That's good. I like that.
That's just how to be offensive in 220 pages.
Well, on the cover of the book, it'll just look like just a person cartwheeling because there'll be no size reference, and so we won't know it's a midget, so it won't be offensive.
Yes, we will, because I'm 6'4".
Because you're going to say.
Yeah, I don't know. Give it the Hobbit treatment.
It's a thought. We'll have to. I'll suggest that to the book cover designer who we use, and we'll see what she says.
Yeah, right. I would like this correspondence. I'd like to be CC'd in on this, because I would like to see that person go, "Are you guys for real, or are you just pulling my leg with everything?" And you'll say, "Well, no, we're serious. We've got this book." And you're like, and I'll be responding, going, "Well, it's a little bit of a piss take."
I find it, and this is just in general, I find it wise to not piss off your book cover designer.
Why?
Because they're a person, they can choose to say no.
You can, but there's in some cases, like with with my publisher, who will probably be our publisher, you get, as an author, you get three rounds with the book cover, so you have two opportunities to say no or yes or no or yes, and then after that they freeze the design and go forward. They don't mess around with you. So if you've given them something way off base, and then the artist comes back and you say no, it needs to go to the left, it needs to go to the right, you're running out of opportunity. And so that's one of the things that I was just cautioning. If you're paying for it yourself, one of the things you want to consider is how much is it costing you to not make up your mind.
Right. So it'd be really irresponsible.
Yeah, that graphic designer will cheerfully do it forever if you want, and she'll just charge you by the hour. So that's another thing to consider. You can be as flaky as you'd like, but it's going to cost you money.
Yeah, but then what happens if they get it really wrong? So, like with my business logo, there was a website that said unlimited revisions for $100. Whoa, don't do that to me. But I knew what I wanted, and when I gave them the spec, and when they came back, I went, we've got a long way to go. And it went back 40 times before I was like, that's what I had in mind.
40 times?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be charged the book cover for the book.
Yeah. But I knew what I wanted. And then now, 4 years later, I constantly get comments about it going, your logo on that van is amazing. Like, well,
there you go.
You just
so it worked out.
However, with books, I guess it'd be wrong to go, look, there's a real lack of my main character pooping in the woods on this cover. And just
exactly.
So, I'm sorry, but time out right quick. Why does your mind immediately go to a character pooping in the woods?
Because medieval fantasy lacks that. We're really lacking in that department, I feel.
He likes the real. I had to mention in my second book about the gold rush in 1861, and Damien was like, have them have to go to the bathroom out in the woods because nobody ever mentions that. So I actually have a line in there where I mention that.
Just promise me you have them at least digging a hole to poop, because back then they at least used a hole.
Well, I don't
It
know.
wasn't very clean, but they used a hole.
Yes, she did.
Any way you get to the end result is fine by me, but I don't know. I just find it strange. You know, you get involved in a story and you think, these guys have been walking for 3 days. How backed up must they be?
I actually
we haven't talked about this.
All right. Anyway.
I actually have a theory about that, and that is because, fiction or not, in the stories reading it, no one really ever thinks of the humanistic characteristics of the characters they're looking at. They just think, oh, these characters are absolutely perfect. They're wonderful. There's nothing wrong about them. But the moment the character is caught with their pants down, they're like, ew.
I know.
Yeah.
It's good. And it's a bit like you see, especially in fantasy books, long journeys. They rarely drink. You go for a walk for 45 minutes. You're like, oh, God, I could sit down. And yet they walk for like 3 days without a break.
Right.
And I think, bullshit. Anyway.
Well, and also, because we talked about this too, if you have you have 3 characters and they're on their hero's journey and they are walking from, itty bitty town A to great big city Oz B, perhaps if there is nothing salient to the plot that happens to them on that 4-day hike, as a writer, you're saying they hiked in the woods for 4 days and you're done. You don't need to give all of this detail unless the detail is relevant. So that's where we come up. And then that goes to the next thing is where they ate didn't matter, where they relieved themselves didn't matter, where they slept didn't matter. They just went from point A to point B and it was really crappy and now they're here. So I think that's part of what you're seeing.
Still not impressed. It's about
Would it make you
it's true. When you travel, you do that. I mean, when someone says, how was your trip? I do not start with the line at TSA. It's like, it was great. We got there. There's all these details that are common enough that you don't need to go through them unless they were spectacular and we were hijacked. I mean, that's the only, really going to be the big thing. After that, it's like we were on a plane. Nothing happened. We were glad.
If I may ask, Damien, would it make you happy if after the 4-day journey, there was just nothing but a chapter of them all like rushing as fast as they can through the town, trying to find an open bathroom to release their bowels?
Yes.
Would it make you happy?
It would. Because, we've all experienced that. And it's like, we were talking about Warcraft before. I hope someone from Blizzard listens because they clearly, someone there follows my thinking. Because there's actually an achievement to use an outhouse in that game. And I was there going, yes, click. Anyway.
You spend 3 days there.
Get me a magazine. I don't know. It is that humanistic side of things. I don't want to belabor the pooping bits. But, you can have this epic journey. And it just seems like they miss those small things. And yet, they'll happily have a whole paragraph about eating stale niblets of bread and cheese.
Yeah.
So
Actually, I didn't think of that before.
I don't know. You don't really hear of them having to fend for themselves either. Like, how long does that loaf of bread last? Without getting mold on it?
I would assume that the better, and I don't read this genre, but the better ones do talk about that. We had this much food. We were this hungry. We had, and you can look at that as you're writing. You can say, all right, they went on this journey and it took them 24 hours, it took them 48 hours, it took them 36 days. And you can then, as an author, say they were down to their last piece of bread, they were starving, she was really tired of relieving herself in the woods. He, hadn't bathed and they don't like each other, please don't get too close. You certainly can do that and describe maybe the effects of what all of that was, rather than the whole nitty gritty, like Cheryl Strayed's Wild, where it's like you're just with that character every literally step of the way. Yes, it just depends on what the book is about. If it's about the hiking or the journey, then you need to describe it. But if it's just the journey needs to happen because you got to get to that city, then you might want to truncate your details and your descriptions.
Yeah, but I was reading the Thomas Covenant books, and there was a point where they all went, oh, here's a watering hole, and they had a wash, and that took like 12 pages to describe having a wash. And I just
See,
think...
where you run into problems then, yes.
And so I just started to think about, well, hang on. They're drinking from that. Someone's washing further upstream. How come no one got dysentery from that being an open pond of water? You don't ever think of that either. Oh,
Well,
actually, I can appreciate that one, Damien, because while you seem to have a big fix on the small matters such as toiletry issues and bathing, mine is whenever they get to where they're going, and it makes me so happy when a character tells them that they smell so ripe or so bad, because usually they're like, oh, we just hiked 36 days, sweat and everything, but we smell great. It's like, no.
I think that too. I've been watching a new show on Netflix called The Last Kingdom. So it's Vikings and the English, and it's pretty well done. But I think that too, they had all the Vikings that just marched across an area and then they embraced each other. And I thought, my God, the smell. But then, did they all stink? And so they didn't notice.
Yep. But they did stink. And sometimes they noticed and sometimes they didn't. But that's definitely part of, it can be part of what you're writing. It can be part of an aside. And I think you see more of that where there's some acknowledgement about, the physicality, but it's going to run in not only in genre, it's going to have, different almost rules for what the, how many and how you reveal the details and what kind of details you reveal, along with what are the trends and what are the current style. What's the current style? So if you watch films, there's a lot more quote reality. So you do have, the two sweaty guys are just, got out of a car chase, or they just got out of a burning car, and the one will look at the other and say, "Oh my gosh, you smell like burning rubber." There'll be more of that. Whereas 40 years ago, they wouldn't have said anything. So it just depends on what your audience expects, and then what you yourself want to emphasize.
Well, then on the current thing, I think, has Game of Thrones destroyed fantasy writing a little bit? Because it seems now, like I was watching The Last Kingdom, it's almost becoming the norm to just kill your characters off as soon as possible. Because I was watching episode 1 of this thing. I was like, halfway through, I thought, I like that king or that leader. Oh, he's dead. Oh. And then it gets, I like that father figure for the... Oh, he died. Hang on, I only met him a minute ago. The kill count is unbelievable. And they set it up as if they're going to be a mainstay character. They get a lot of airtime. Then all of a sudden, it's an arrow through the throat, and the guy's like, oh, moving on.
Oh, that's frustrating.
And
see, I'm not fond of that. So you need to keep those characters around for me.
Yeah, I just think it just had that whole... Oh, here's a game. Game of Thrones killed everyone off. Let's do it now.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. And so it's this must be the trend.
I've never watched Game of Thrones, and I'm not trying to defend it. But from what I've heard, at least they gave you a moment to learn about the character before they murder him, instead of being like one of those shows or movies like, hey, who's this guy? Doesn't matter. He's dead. Hey, what about this guy? Oh, no, he's dead too.
It's like the red shirt syndrome from
that goes to the idea, and it's from Galaxy Quest. Whereas if a character does not have a last name, they will die before the show is over.
Well, Josh has got 3 names for his people.
I've put several of them in the hospital already, and I've got one I intend to just completely murder.
Ah, fun.
In the plans.
You're giving stuff away now. But
I didn't tell you which one he is. He's not even part of the main.
Really? It's Jasmine, isn't it?
No.
No?
Jasmine's a she.
Right.
I said he.
You sure? Well, you see, but you might be just trying to throw me off the scent.
No, I can tell you, because he's actually a character and this is going to be so bad because he's sitting in the other room. He's a character I modeled after my father, who's a ex-military man. But I intend to give him a very heroic death. But I'm not going to be nice about it.
Oh, so obviously, we all do it. You model your characters on someone that you've come across before. So, if you've got brothers or sisters, watch out.
Yeah. It's Revenge is Sweet. It's that program.
Yeah, but we do come across these people, and that's what sort of helped me kick off starting mine years and years ago. So I came across an old Russian guy called Thomas, and he was out on a job with us, and it was amazing. I found myself within 20 minutes going, I need to put you in something.
Mm-hmm. That sounds so wrong.
Yeah.
But sometimes that can really trigger a book where you do meet somebody and you say, you deserve to be in a book. You deserve to be a character. And once you start that quote character with the real life example, then the character will probably take off.
And it did. It did for me. And it was, it can be a simple catchphrase. I think this guy, he came up to me and he slapped me on the face and says, "You're a big, strong boy." Yeah, I'll take the top bunk. No. But that was it. And I thought that's going to be his catchphrase in this. Mm-hmm. And so it really allows you to have that reference point to focus a bit more. And so your character can develop. And if you start, and I've had this, I start to feel like I'm losing him a bit. I'll throw in that, I'll throw something down going, I need more big, strong men. And it pulls you right back. And that's what he's like. He's a big, burly Russian guy.
Yeah. And you can hear his voice, and then his voice will help move you forward in the story. So I think that's a good touch point. Or a lot of authors will put, and Pinterest boards are great for this, is that they have visualized their characters, and I did for Future Girls and for a little bit for Future Gold. The visualized characters, find the actors or people who reflect them enough. And so they can, you can go back and say, oh, that's right. His hair looked like this, or she had this kind of figure, and it you get grounded again. And then that character can launch off again. It's a really good idea.
So there you go. That's why it's good to people watch.
Yes, it's very good to people watch. And writers we not only like to watch people, we like to overhear conversations. So we're eavesdroppers as well. We're just terrible. We have no social skills at all.
Yeah, wow.
You're here to hear, folks. Get a deer stand, get some binoculars, and just start watching.
Yeah, because that's not creepy at all. It's only creepy if you ask him if your hanky smells like chloroform.
It's only creepy if you ask him if it's okay to watch.
Just get in the van.
That's true. It's better to do it just mellow. You just kind of hang out. That's nothing to see here. Just drinking my wine, pretending not to listen to that couple over there having a fight. And I think that he really should tell her that he loves her.
Nah, but he's probably got, someone on the side. So why would he do that?
They got dark.
You do.
Yeah, you got to. So once you had your book sort of done and dusted, did you then pay for an editor? How'd you find that?
Yes, actually. I've gone through 3 editors. I'm on my 3rd now. The first one, she did a really good job, but at the same time, she couldn't really put the amount of attention to it that it needed to a point where I had to drop her, and I picked up my second one. She was really good, but there was a lot of things that she missed, and she seemed to be sort of, well, like Catherine was saying earlier about the cover designer. She seemed to be taking it in, doing some fixes to it, then sending it back to me and being like, oh, I'm sorry, is there still more? I can do more for more money. So then I found this new one. Let me try to find his name. It's Rob something. He's actually an award-winning editor and writer.
With a memorable name.
With a memorable name. Rob something.
He is Rob.
Everyone just knows him as Rob. Yeah, we all know Rob. It's fine.
That's one name. He's a
Rob Dignell. That's him.
Oh. So then, but how do you find them? Did you just Google, I need an editor?
No, I spent quite a bit of time looking through different editors. I actually had one contact up in Canada I was talking to about, hey, can you possibly find me an editor for this? And it was about that time that I found Rob.
Cool.
So, but then do you feel like, how do you combat the fact that you went through one, you pay them, and you're like, this is still not where I need it to be. I know it doesn't sit right. You find someone else and you just pay them, and then that doesn't work. At some point you go, oh, crap, this is costing me money.
Are you trying to ask me if I feel bad about spending money on it?
No, I'd just be more like, if someone didn't do the job properly, I'd say, well, I'm not paying you because you didn't do what I asked.
Well, the way I see it, I don't look at it as a loss. I look at it as, I'm still new to this. This was an experience. I'm still sort of like, it's almost like I'm part of the Avengers or something. Just want to put something new in media out there as an example. But they're not new at all. But I'm building a team, basically. I have my cover designer. I have an artist who made designs of my characters that will be in the back of the book in the new one. She's actually watching the live stream right now. Hi, Sidonia.
Oh, hello.
There's Rob Bigno. I'm hoping I can go back to him later as my editor as well, because he's doing a really good job on it. He's been working on it for about a month, done 2 read-throughs of it. And then there's just whoever else I can pick up to help me out, and that will it's basically experimenting and building a team while you're still new.
Yeah,
and everything you need to budget and make sure you understand when you can do something and when you can't.
It must be hard, though, because as a newbie, you don't have that team set up. You do put your faith and trust in people a little bit, and then when they come back and say, well, that's going to be $900 to edit. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they don't do the job properly. And then you think, well, hang on, money isn't growing on trees here. I'm not a famous person. I'm not Justin Bieber having 12 people write my memoir for 3 years. You've got to draw that line somewhere. So how do you find those people? Do you just go through and keep looking for those reviews? Do you find recommendations?
I honestly look for reviews. I look for talent in certain areas. I look for
price cost. Like, my editor, for what he's doing, is only costing me $350 altogether.
Oh, yeah.
My cover art, it was actually a picture she had already taken for someone else who had never paid her for it. It only cost me like $50, and then my artist only cost me like $112. It's not, from what I've seen, the high price people might not always be best, because I've seen a lot of people, it's almost like they're willing to take advantage of a new writer, or they're willing to take advantage of, yes, there's not that many editors out there that can do the work, but that doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and pay you like $1,000 for every 8 pages. That's not going to happen.
No. And I think this is where it comes down to it, though. You know, we talk about this occasionally, of people who go, I just can't afford to do it. It must be expensive. I'll just put it up on Amazon and be done with it. And then they end up in the slush pile of every other Amazon unedited, hand-drawn cover book that you see out there. It's a little dig at something I saw online.
I honestly didn't know that was a thing. Where can I find that?
I'll see if I can.
I will be its king.
See if I can dig that link up. My God, we got half a show out of that a year ago.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Anyway.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, there is that genre. Not that genre. There is that subsection of those who do think it is a little bit too much or too hard to fine-tune things. But then they have that high opinion of themselves that, well, I've written a book, so it must be amazing. Like, yeah, but you're not going to get anywhere if you haven't edited it and if you've got a crap cover.
I mean, that's why you need to build a team while at the same time looking at costs. Like, it kills me how many people I have found in the corners of the internet or in the world that are so talented, but people refuse to pick them up because they're not these like high grade, big name people.
Yep.
And that's usually when I sweep in and I'm like, mine!
Yeah. But then, I don't know. It comes to a bit of drive. You've obviously got enough drive to say, this is where I want to be. I am going to have to pay for some of it, but I'll make sure I research it in depth. And then already you'll then slot in above the rest of them that are just, pump it out to Amazon. It's all good.
Right. So,
yeah, I think you're going to get there and do well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, please stick around. We've got some other bits and pieces we can do, like Word of the Week.
Word of the Week, yes.
Let's do word of the week.
Okay, let's see if you get this.
Yeah, this one's crap. This is good.
Is it crap? Did I win? Is it crap?
Nope.
Oh, I was so close.
Got this from a word a day that Anu Garg puts together. Paternoster. Paternoster. Right. A sequence
Say
of... What? Say it.
Sorry, go ahead. I was trying to figure out what you just said.
That's the point.
Paternoster.
We're learning new words. We're expanding our vocabulary.
She just likes it because I'm Australian, so it's not going to sound anything like it should. So, Paternoster.
That's why you have a fan club, because you have that fabulous accent. Come on,
That's
you
all.
know it's true.
It's usually middle-aged women, too. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Paternoster, I think we'll say. A sequence of words used as a formula. A continuously moving, endless elevator that goes in a loop. Now, that's where my brain went, what?
Yeah, there was a photo of it, and it was there's a elevator that just it's almost like a Ferris wheel, and it just keeps going. And I guess you just hop on, and then it takes you around, and then you hop off, and so it has the added advantage of promoting injuries just to get to the next floor. I think that's fabulous.
That sounds terrifying.
Oh, I get it. It's almost like taking one of Newton's laws of gravity or physics and basically saying, let's go ahead and pull that out, chuck it to the side, and we're good.
And we're good. We're going to make this work.
It doesn't slow down. It just continuously goes at the same speed. Doesn't speed up, doesn't slow down.
And I need
I just thought it was lovely.
And I need
what
an
a
investor
charming
for
idea.
it. Imagine that. Imagine coming to somewhere and going, look, I've got a patent for a unending, like a constant loop elevator, and I need money for it.
Well, look at what we fund at the on cyberspace. So if what could be that could be just as reasonable to somebody.
Sign up now. GoFundMe for the endless elevator.
For the endless elevator.
Not sure where we'll put it, but we need a lot of space.
Exactly.
Anyway,
It'll be fun. Come on down.
let's do a tortured sentence.
Okay.
Next time, don't put the wrong emphasis on the right syllable. Tortured sentences. That was one of Josh's characters out in the woods. He didn't.
Yep.
He edited that bit out. It's fun.
So this is.
You try to eat spoiled meat and see what happens.
Yeah, and washed it in the filthy river.
There you go. I regretted that. So this is from
Saturday
World
nights.
According to student bloopers
Mhm.
from St. Paul's School, and I just liked this, and I give a shout out to the originators. Without the Greeks, we wouldn't have history.
Those Greeks responsible for everything.
They're responsible for everything, including history. Without the Greeks, we wouldn't have history. I loved that.
I guess the Egyptians would have something to say about that.
I refuse to believe that.
Especially since it was the Greeks who wrote about visiting Egypt. I thought if you read Herodotus, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, that.
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm getting all wibbly wobbly, timey wimey here, but I mean, if the Greeks didn't invent history, we would all just be. I'm sorry, invent history. Wow, I sound okay.
Invent history would be good too.
We would just all be speaking a different language.
We would be, and hopefully it'd have lots of pops and clicks in it.
Yes, maybe that's how we would all be speaking.
I was thinking more like the alien from Treasure Planet, where he's speaking nothing but farts.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, good. Let's just have that completely go down the proverbial toilet.
Yep.
Nice work, guys.
Yeah, sorry, no one speaks on Taco Tuesday or Curry Wednesday, so
It's all Morse code.
it's almost code. Anyway, let's do a prompt.
All right.
All right. So this is a prompt for those that are a bit stuck and they like to, I don't know, write a paragraph based on our dribblings. So this one is challenge fate. What if the worst thing that ever happened to you or your character turned out to be the very best thing that ever happened to you or them? Write about an unlikely ending to a terrible beginning. Right. don't write like we
And
talk.
then there was cake.
Yeah, exactly. He was disemboweled, but then the torturer brought him cake, and all was well. all was well in the gatehouse.
There's always good. You gotta, meditate and, focus on the good. Although that would be hard in the torture chamber, I realize.
Yes. Anyway, so there, see if you can write something with a happy ending.
Happy ending.
Yes. Anyway, all right. Well, Josh, it's been a pleasure having you on. Give us a quick shout out of your book and where people can find it.
Yeah.
She's very eager. You find the World Beyond site upon arrival at Amazon.com, or you can always go to my Facebook page, The World Beyond site, to see what's going on in the book and what's going on in the new updates.
There you go.
As well as my Twitter, Kingdom of Panalis.
Panalis. That sounds filthy. Or like
only if you want it to be.
Or a very nice food. All right. Now, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? I know you already shouted out your old man, but you've also heads up that you're going to kill him in a book. So,
I mean, don't make it sound so cold-blooded. Jeez.
It's going to be that.
It's very loving.
Oh,
It was a loving death.
death.
I feel better. Thanks.
yeah. 'cause
After death.
That's not creepy. Yes. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Let's see here. Sidonia, Rob Bignell, Sprinkles on Top Studios, Godzilla. Yeah, I'm out.
All right.
Sprinkles on top.
There is one last thing I want to say for any newbie writers out there.
Yes.
And that is, let me get a little deep with you right quick. You might find people that you're close to that you if you ever hear this term, if you do this, you will make $1 million, cut them out of the loop immediately. Because I heard that so much, I wanted to just throw chicken wings at people. I was so mad. I was at a buffalo wing place, okay?
Oh, and so they would give you advice and say, well, if you only did A, then you would make $1 million. Like, I don't know. If you only send it to Oprah, she would review it and then you would make $1 million. That kind of really helpful advice?
More like, if you want this to be, they were trying to take it away from being my vision. They were like, I mean, if you make all your characters like this or do this or this, and if you want $1 million, if I want $1 million, I would have $1 million. That's not the point.
Right.
Exactly. And $1 million doesn't get you that far anyway these days.
Yeah.
Well, there's certainly easier ways of getting $1 million than writing a book.
And at
Like the lottery.
Yeah,
Well-
like the lottery. Didn't work out so well for me.
Yeah, seriously, what's with that? It's like $1 billion or something.
Yeah, it was like $1 billion. And I think 3 or 4 people won it, so they'll divide it up.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I said this to someone at work yesterday. I said, cool, you win $1 billion, you lose 460 million of that to tax.
Oh, yeah. Well, in your fantasies, for when you buy your quick pick lottery ticket, always take that into consideration. So don't spend the $1 billion in your head. You're only going to spend about half of it in your head. So just FYI, I always take out the taxes first before I start, emotionally spending the money I don't have.
I always figured it was more about immediately start thinking about where you want to invest that money, because after you get it, you're going to be too busy oh my God, I've got money.
Well,
That's why people fall apart.
There was a British couple only last week that won 67 million. And the reason it made our news is their daughter was over here working in Australia, and it was around Christmas time, whatever. They interviewed the couple and they said, with your newfound wealth, what are you going to buy? And this is why I love the Poms, right? Because my family's Pom. Is his response wasn't, well, we're going to buy a new house, we're going to buy a mansion, a boat. He's like, well, I need a new pair of shoes.
Oh.
And they said, what? And he says, well, you see these $200 pairs of shoes and you think, I'm not going to pay that. He says, well, I can buy them now. I'm thinking, mate, you could probably buy the brand.
That is so sweet, though.
Yeah. And that's how they are. It's like, I'll buy a new pair of shoes.
I'll buy a new pair of shoes. It'll be great.
Whereas, Americans be like, yeah, I'm going to buy a quad bike and guns. Anyway.
In guns, definitely. Don't forget the
Actually, it's a monster truck. Thank you.
Sorry. Just a little insight. There's a little newbie insight. If Josh becomes really successful, and he'll forget that he was ever on this show, but we'll remind him that he needs to buy a monster truck with his $1 million.
He needs to buy a monster truck when you're famous. We're going to revisit this when you're famous.
Yeah,
I'll never forget. I'll end up in Australia, pull up right up in front of Damien's house, and just be like, "Hey, buddy, get in. We're going shopping.
No.
We're going to get shoes."
I mean, like, are we going to run over any koalas today? Yeah. Are we going to hit any kangaroos today? Because I know a good spot. Anyway, now, Catherine, is there anyone you could give a shout out to? You had a busy week.
I had a busy week. I'm not going to name my clients, but I'll give a shout out to the 5 I have now, and they're doing really well, and they're promoting their books and finishing their books, and it's been delightful to work with them and move them forward on their journey.
Oh, well, there you go. All right, now, last week you said that we had a guest on who it was the wrong guest. So
it was the wrong guest.
Have we got Jeff Michaels on next week?
Yes, we do.
Cool. All
For
right.
real.
For reals.
For episode 200 something.
Yeah. For episode 200.1.
Yep.
Make sure you join us for episode 200. It'll be good. I don't know what we'll talk about. Rubbish, probably.
Probably.
I'll get the streamer swords.
Please. I'm counting on you to drive the streamer swords in your monster truck to our next show. With a portaloo. Now.
There you go. Like Road to Fury. Fury Road. You could do.
Until next
Stand on the monster truck and wave your swords.
Stop.
Mad Josh.
Yes, Mad Josh.
I'm going now. Until next week. We'll see you then.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.